Hi. Good evening. Mariola, Patrick, Maciek, Marzena, Sylvia, Joanna, Magda, Agnieszka, Beata, Greg, Veronica, and everybody, good evening. All right. So today we're going to talk about how to talk about years in English. Okay. So today, if you are involved in planning, especially if you work in a company, you need to refer to years, yeah, and important times in the year. So today we're going to learn essential words and phrases so that you can talk about years in English, time periods, and historical times. But before we move on, I would like to ask everyone if you can hear, I would like to greet you first. Hello, hola, bonjour, kumusta? That's in my language. Vitam, privet, for example, if I pronounce that correctly, I hope. Yes, I. And maybe can you tell me if you can hear and see me well before we continue? Yeah. Can you hear and see me? Yes, Marian, hello. Christoph, Ella, Robert. Yes, Agnieszka, Sylvia, Hilda, Mariola. Is it good? Can you all hear and see me? And perhaps maybe you can tell me as of right now, where are you located? Well, as you know, I'm actually in my room and I am in the Philippines. Okay. Maybe you can tell me where are you located as well, from where you are connecting from now, because with me I am in the Philippines. For those who doesn't know me yet, I'm Marian. I'm from Philippines, and this is a beautiful tropical country with a lot of beach and hot weather, I must say. So from Poland, Torun, Wrocław, Warsaw, Lublin. Yes, very nice. Thank you. How about the others? Maybe someone connecting from, I don't know, away from Poland, Katowice. Thank you. Right. So you see in the slide right now, that is an example beach here in Philippines. I'm here in Tutlo for about 6 years now and hosting the webinar for like 5 years. I hope that I can help you out today. Learn something. Thank you from Hungary. Yes, Hilda, thank you. Shin Wuch. It's hard to I'm trying to learn reading your places and names. I hope that I improve. But thank you so much. Let's move on today and start with our lesson. But first of all, I want to tell you what are you gonna expect today in our webinar. Yes, of course, I would want to share with you definitions and vocabulary that is connected to years. Anyway, there are many phrases, words and phrases in English that is connected, and then learn different time periods in a year, and we're going to have a little bit of practice before we end today. And of course, we will try to cover it up for about 30 minutes, and very important to somehow, if you can stay with me even until the poll questions, right, because it's very important so that we can identify if there are still other topics that you would like to talk about. Feel free to chat that here on our chat box. Yes, Christoph, a lot of people say that, but it's really hot in here. Okay, so again, for the topics, if ever that you have some suggestions, feel free to write that down in the chat box or via email. And yes, we will try to accommodate them as much as possible if we can, and we're going to talk about it and then plan future lessons for this. So let's move on now. Talking, how to talk about years in English. Let's define first What is a year? A year is the time taken by the Earth to make one revolution around the sun. Okay, according to science, that's what it means when we say year. Or it is the period of 365 days or 366 days in leap year, starting from the 1st of January. Do you know when is the next leap year, by the way? Have idea? Leap year, wherein there's February 29 on the calendar. Well, this year we only had 28 days in February. Yeah. Anyone? You know when's the next leap year? It contains an additional day added to keep the calendar year synchronized with the astronomical year or seasonal year. Oh yes, very good. Thank you, Greg. Yes, Pietra. Next year, correct. It's going to be on 2024. So for those who have birthdays of February 29, yes, you can celebrate. Let's move on. I want to show you other words for year because it may, especially if you are in business, maybe you are using different terminology, but it's still talking about a year. For example, 12-month period or fiscal year or 4 seasons, civil year, financial year, calendar year. Okay, so these are other terminologies usually used, especially in finance, in taxes, when you are in business. Yes, especially we are almost all are working adults. So we have here words that can be like a replacement instead of saying just year, but they just all mean the same. Like they're talking about a year, one whole year, January to December. Good. Okay. And I wanted to show you here different types of years. Okay, so first of all, we already talked about the leap year. And to explain that further, for those who doesn't know leap year, this is a year when there are 366 days rather than 365. Yes, because the extra day is on, sorry, this is, apologies, this is February, okay? Forgive me, this is February, all right? Extra day is on February. A leap year occurs once every 4 years. So since I already asked you the next leap year, we know that this is on 2024. That'll be next year, all right? Thank you. Apologies. Let's move on. Another type of year, this is something like I heard this in science. You know, when I was in elementary, I really cannot understand this, but there's what we call light year. Maybe you are familiar with Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear. I come from space. The distance, the distance that light travels in a year, or a long distance or great amount, better than something else. So that is what we call light year. So light year is like, well, of course it says here that it is in 1 year the light travels, and light zips through interstellar space, something like that, around 300,000 kilometers per second. Or if you are familiar with miles, that would be something like 5.88 trillion miles per year. So the light is traveling. Well, that's according to science, okay? Let's move on. That is just light year. This is just another type of year that you may hear in English. Another one is academic year, okay? When we say academic year, it is also called as school year, the period of the year when students go to university or school, usually September to June. So in United States, there are typical 160 to 180 school days in a year. The exact number mainly depends on the state. Although school years at colleges and universities are often shorter, actually, and private schools tend to have classes around 170 days each year, and we have the same in the Philippines, around less than 200 days for the school days each year. And in the past, maybe just a fact that I would like to share with you. Here in Philippines, we start our class June, in the past around June, and then we will end around March. Mm-hmm. But we changed it somehow 2, 3 years ago. We are now like kind of adjusted because of our summertime that's really hot, the global warming anyway. So we start the school year here around August. Yes, August. And we'll finish like at around maybe May or June. So what about you there? I believe I have an idea, but I don't want to spoil it. Maybe you can tell me, when does the school year start in your country? Is it the same in United States? September to June? I guess. Yes. In that is in school, yes, but in university, I believe that's around October, like 1 year, 1 month late. Mm-hmm. Could you confirm that, please? Let's call on some names here. Kate, Christina, around that time, the same. Okay, September. Yeah, different. I see. I see. Thank you. Let's move on. Another type of year in English, what we call calendar year. So this is from January 1st to December 31. So don't forget, there are 52 weeks in a calendar year. So in university, yes, you wanna October 1, always September 1. Okay. Yeah, I remember it's always September 1 because regardless what day it will fall, but it will start at September 1. Yeah, unless of course weekends for sure. But in my country, it's not with the date, but it's with Monday. It should be Monday. Different, yes. So the calendar year, by the way, it is based on the commonly used Gregorian calendar that we are following right now. And of course, for those who are in businesses and who are working adults over here, maybe you have heard of this, the financial year, also known as the tax year or fiscal year. A 12-month period starting April 6th and ending of 5th of April of the following year in the UK, by the way. So I'm not sure is it the same in Europe, by the way, for the financial year? For those who are in accounting, perhaps, maybe if you have an idea, would you mind sharing if the tax or fiscal year is the same? Here it's 4th of April up until 3rd of April next year. Yeah, in the Philippines. So how about there? Maybe you have idea? Again, when we say financial year, it is a 1 year period of time that a company or a government uses for accounting purposes and preparation of its financial statements. Yeah. I don't know why they need to start in April and not January. Okay. So that is financial year. Usually around April. It will start at around April, first week normally. I'm just not so sure there in Europe, but perhaps it's the same, almost the same. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Now this time let's move on to time periods in a year. 30. 30. Okay, sorry, thank you. Okay, financial year finishes in April 30 and starts May 1. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So that is around the 4th week of April. Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Moving on, time periods in a year. So these are phrases in English that maybe you will hear and you might encounter when we're talking about time periods in a year. It is also important, learning different phrases and words connected to time, because, of course, surely you might need it for some reason that is connected in your work, in your job, perhaps. So when we say a quarter, it means 3 months. A year is divided into 4 quarters, so known as the first quarter, second quarter, third, or fourth. Or you can also see the symbols Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So if you are in accounting, you know this. Yes? Financial year starts at the 1st of January. But then it ends at April 30? We need to check that out. Okay, the business did really well in the first quarter. That is an example sentence to use quarter. Okay, and again, this is divided into 4 equal corresponding parts. 3 months every quarter. Okay, and of course, next time period in a year is semester, a term. So in British English, they say term, but in American English, we follow semester. A semester is a calendar that divides the academic year into 15 to 17 week terms. So there are generally 2 semesters per academic year. I believe that in your continent, during fall, yes, after summer is fall or autumn, the beginning of around September, something like that. And another one would be the next semester would start in the beginning of spring. Am I correct? Yes, around March, this March. Yes, or middle of March. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Mikowai. So, right, fall or autumn. Okay, so the exams are, for example, example sentence, the exams are in the summer term. Yes, okay. Semester. Next, let's move on, would be fortnight. Okay, when we say fortnight, if you are watching some Netflix shows, British English actually, then maybe you might hear or encounter this word, fortnight. It means 2 weeks. I'll see you in a fortnight. It is a unit of time equal to 14 days. This word derives from an English term, fortnight, something like that, meaning 14 nights. 14 nights. That's why it's fortnight. But this word or phrase is not really used that much nowadays. It is like, let me say, old English term. So we can rather say bi-weekly or 2 weeks, something like that. But if ever you encounter this, that's what it means, 14 nights, 2 weeks. Next, another time period in a year is what we call annual. Yes, happening every year, annual, for example. So it's time for an annual party. So we can use different words like yearly, each year, every year, per year, by the year, once a year, every 12 months, per annum. We can also have per annum or year after year. That is another, those are synonyms of the word annual. Yes, Miko, wedding, you're talking about anniversary, I suppose. Yes? Okay, so when you're talking about the yearly bake sale, for example, you would mean that the bake sale is happening each year. When you're talking about the annual bake sale, you mean every upcoming bake sale. Now, we can use time periods as adjectives. So for example, an annual party, a party that happens once a year, a yearly holiday. Yeah, a holiday every year, for instance. A monthly meeting, for instance, we can also use that. What I'm talking about is time periods as an adjective. I'm not just talking about annual thing, but I want to share with you. Maybe I can maybe write that here on our chat box. Wait for me. Okay, there. Let me write it here. There you go. You see? Annual party, As an adjective, we can use it if we're talking about something like a monthly meeting, a weekly schedule, fortnightly appointment, and a daily catch up. Right? You can use those phrases if ever, hopefully, to try to apply it when you have lessons here on Sitlo. Next, let's move on. Another, this time let's talk about historical time. Okay. So perhaps maybe when you're reading a book or watch a film, you have this, you've seen this letters BC and AD. BC before Christ, and AD is after Christ, after the birth of Christ, Anno Domini, or was it 35 AD, something like that? So it is something like historical time. But please excuse me, I'm not really fond of history, not so much, just a little bit. Okay, well, I'm a fan of history, don't get me wrong. It's just that when it comes to this, I'm not so knowledgeable of this, why it is BC or AD. Yeah, but therefore, if you will encounter this, it's something like that. BC is before Christ was born, and AD is like when after Jesus Christ, after the birth of Jesus Christ. Okay, good. Let's continue. All right. Okay, here another historical times. It is part of history, of course, what we call century. It means 100 years. So a century, this is a numbered ordinal number in English, okay, and many other languages. So the word century comes from the Latin word centum, meaning 100. So when we talk about centuries, we look forward. So the year 1990 was in the 20th century, while 2019 is in the 21st century. Good. Next, another historical time is what we call this. If you see this, by the way, the 00 and an S, when we pronounce it, it's called hundreds. For instance, 1900s. You got me? In the 1900s, travel took a lot longer than nowadays. That is how we should read it in English. Good? Okay. And of course, a decade, another historical time vocabulary, a period of 10 years. We know that. Yes? Okay. Moving on. Another words or phrases, we can also refer to decades like this. For example, since we're talking about period of 10 years, we can also say 50s. In 50s, the 50s were a great era for rock and roll, like Elvis Presley. Yes. 60s, 70s, the millennium, 1,000 years, such as year 2000. Okay. That is also considered decades. Correct? Okay. Moving on. Here, when we say, to say year in English, 1984, for instance, yeah, when we say 1984, it is divided into two syllables, 19 and then 84. I noticed some people somehow, when they read numbers in English, it's quite challenging for them to read a year. So you would say in this case, 1984, 1066, 1652, 1941, and 2017. Good? Don't forget. Again, if it is about year, that is how you will read it. And if we're talking about years after 2000, so it is something like this. The common way of saying the year is 2000 and a number, 2001, 2005, 2008. So for the first year after 2010, you will hear two different ways, like 2012 or 2012. Good. And right now, 2023. Okay, correct. Okay, let's move on. When a year in a number, if there's a year like you're talking about with 0 and 1, for example, 1705 or 1705, then the last part is pronounced as the name of the letter O. 1508, 1709, 1901. That's how you will read it, or that's how you will say it in English if the number is between 01 and 09, if it ends in those numbers. Another tip, when a year ends in 00, for example, then the year is said to as the digits before 0 and then 100. 1300, 1700, 1800. This is like we're talking about the decade of each century. And referring to decade of each century, when people refer to the entire century, we're talking about with S, the 1500s, the 1800s. Yes. But if you're just talking about the start of that century, it's without S. Okay. So I hope that you're able to get that all. I'm trying to wrap it up because of our time, but then let's move on to practice, shall we? Okay, this time be ready. Can you tell me what is it in English? A vocabulary equivalent to 10 years. Anyone? Let's see here. Okay, we've got 62 people now. Mariola, Magda, Teresa, Kate, Christina. Yes, Lilia, Carolina, Joanna, Kasha, Ella, Emma, and we've got Alicia. How about the others? Veronica, Mihao. Yes, let's see. Decade. Very nice. Thank you for the answers. That's what we call decade. Very good. A decade. How about when it is equivalent to 100 years? How do we say it in English? 100 years. Anyone? Okay. So we just need to review it a little bit, yes, because it is also some kind of problems from time to time, even though we don't really use it in an everyday basis, but it's important that we should know this. Very good. It's a century, correct. Let's move on. Equivalent to 14 days, an old English terminology. Equivalent to 14 days, what is that? 14 days, 2 weeks, bi-weekly. It is what we call, again, not so typically used nowadays, but it's nice to know about this, and maybe you can use it during your conversation with someone. Very good. Yes, it can be, Joanna, 2 weeks, or that one word is fortnight. Very good. And last one, a period of the year when students go to university or school. What do we call that? There are two possible answers here. Yes, Renata. Yes, two possible answers over here. University or school, and that's what we call. And don't forget, okay, how you will say it in English. 1900s, 1901, 2012. Yes, student year. Thank you, Greg. However, the official way of saying it is what we call, thank you, Christoph, academic year or school year. Very good. Thank you. Although somehow, yes, considerably understandable is student year. Yes, but this is more official, academic year or school year when we say it. Very nice. And I want to tell you something today. Don't just count your years. Make your years count. All right, then. So that's the end of my webinar. I hope that you find it useful today, especially for the different phrases in English that you can use, and maybe you might need it in your job anyway. If you've got questions, let me know, and don't forget to check us and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and something like that. All right, okay. And yes, this is really what I wanted to tell you today, is really make your years count. So on Monday, we'll be seeing each other again, same time, and I'm going to talk about a grammar lesson. Hope you will be there. Thank you so much for today. I'll see you around. And have a good evening. Goodbye for now.